that the government put there while simultaneously spending out of control and raising the cost of living and stressing the entire system. That is how an economic loop translates into real social damage. And then the government will introduce a bill such as Bill C-63 to expand penalties and definitions of hate crime that they themselves are exacerbating and creating. By 2025, the criticism has become so prominent that the government has to step back on its immigration. But not only do they not implement any spending cuts, introduce any near-term GDP production, they actually produce the biggest budget in history, alongside an annual total GDP of 1.1% on top of a $1.23 trillion debt, and mischaracterize $94 billion as capital investment when it is debt service. That is deliberately pouring salt directly into a wound that they created. Doing this announcement now, to me, looks more like political damage control, which is something that the company Eurasia Group, who's hired by Mark Carney for political risk, would advise him on. If I had to compress everything into a sentence, Canada allowed cost of living and CPI to outrun wages through overspending and weak productivity that absolutely crushed natural fertility rates, and instead of fixing those fundamentals, the government tried to replace missing babies with catastrophic immigration, which raised costs further, making us more dependent on immigration. That is not sustainable, that is not fair to Canadians, that is not fair to newcomers. So where does this leave us? My analysis dictates that the most efficient structure for a flourishing economy is to maintain the fertility rate as close to 2 as you can, which requires a low consumer price index, that's your cost of living, a balanced budget, and investment in near-term positive GDP projects, while simultaneously having balanced immigration around 1% of the population. As soon as your GDP drops and you use immigration to boost that over short term, you are mismanaging the economy and abusing immigration to make it look like you're being productive when you're actually not. As this continues, there is no recovery. Getting you to look into the distance 20 years at a project that might return positive GDP is the most ridiculous promise you can give a country that's in this fiscal landscape. Which begs the question, why is the man that you elected to be Prime Minister, that is a board member of the WEF Foundation, that has a PhD in economics, who is also advising the former Prime Minister since 2020, purposefully obscuring the truth while perpetually and intentionally eroding the foundation of Canada's economy?
This does not end well.